Hey y'all, AI Suzy Voice here. If you are watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that I kept disappearing from the screen. And if you're audio only, you'll hear some things giving you clues that I was on the struggle bus. I was having a super good time that day with my laptop being temperamental. Kelsey is a freaking amazing co-host and basically carried this episode without a hitch. Hopefully, I edited it well enough that you won't notice it too much. Have a fabulous day.
Good morning, baseball fans. It is Sunday, February 25th. We are so close to actual real baseball.
Less than a
But
month.
first, we're going to talk about all of the things today. I'm Suzy. That is Kelsey. This is Bourbon and Baseball. I'm going to give you the rated R warning. There is no full frontal nudity. There's not even any nudity. Let's
Definitely
get that
not.
out of the way. Yeah, let's get
Don't
out
worry,
that out
YouTube.
of the way. Yeah. No, none of the nudity, just all the F bombs. Okay, just all of the F bombs. Probably some other colorful words in there that tiny ears shouldn't hear, or if colorful words offend you, probably should change this. And most definitely inappropriate adult humor. That will definitely happen today. But with that, we're gonna get into it. Kels, I'm sorry that this is unfortunately going to be my last episode with you, because according to the internet trolls, I don't know shit about baseball. I am a casual, and I shouldn't be hosting a baseball podcast because I've only been watching baseball since 2021. I wasn't aware of the elite defensive prowess that Andrelton fucking Simmons apparently
Who?
possessed. Okay. A OPS plus of an 87, career 87 OPS plus. But apparently he was a badass with a glove. And in recent years was the best defensive shortstop in recent years. Maul. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, when I think of best defensive shortstops for the Houston Astros in recent years, that's I don't know though, because I've only been watching baseball since the early 90s and clearly a casual here. Just
Yeah.
look around me. I'm glad I brought my coffee because as a woman, I clearly should just sit back and sip my coffee. Yeah, I don't know, Susie. I guess I'm just glad
Yeah.
that you came to this realization with the help of the trolls
Yeah.
because that's really what they're here to do is to call you
Yeah.
out, put you in your place, and just keep you from living life the way that
Exactly.
you intend to live life, which should be completely up to you.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that you're just taking their very serious and heavy advice.
Yeah. It's from the heart. It's
I'm
really
sorry,
for
yeah,
for
I'm sorry that
the
we have to part ways, but I understand.
Yeah. For the betterment of society, I should just shut the fuck up, apparently, and read some more about Andrelton Simmons.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
I swallowed my coffee before you said that because I just want to spit it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I am
Before you
sorry.
go,
Yeah. Yeah.
before you go, we have I'm glad that you're gonna see it through one more week because I think we have some really good things to talk about today.
Okay,
And
fine.
I do feel like the people have been waiting to get our take on a very specific thing that is storyline in Major League Baseball, which we're gonna get to pretty early on here. But first off, we were talking just before we started recording about spring training games are underway. And
Mhm.
yesterday, both of our teams played their first spring training games. And much like the trolls, there are people all over the internet that want to say the season is over. The Cardinals and the Astros are just phoning it in, and we might as well just hang up our see through pants now because they're playing like shit already. What a joke. So I
We're
thought,
fucking cooked.
yeah, cooked. Day one of spring training, cooked.
Yeah.
I thought it would be fun. We don't need to get like too deep into detail because obviously each team runs their spring training games a little bit differently depending on what their goals are and what they need to work on. But let's talk about why spring training games are not like normal, real, actual games. There's a reason why they are spring training games, like preseason
Right.
games. Do you think the reason that people maybe don't understand that they are not played at all like regular games because my husband was telling me in the NFL, like the preseason games are a little bit more like real games or maybe at least a little bit more competitive. I don't know. So please trolls
Right.
come for me. I don't
Yeah.
know. But I wonder if maybe that's why like in other sports it's a little bit different. But from my understanding, my humble understanding is that a lot of the times, let's take Joe Musgrove in the first inning against the dominating Dodgers, who just came out, clearly set the tone for the
2-0, baby. 162-0. That's what the Dodgers are gonna win this year.
But a pitcher like Joe Musgrove, who at this point is a veteran, like an established veteran for the San Diego Padres, he is
Couldn't
just
record an out.
he couldn't record an out, cut the cord, DFA, do it now. But from my understanding, a guy like him has nothing to prove coming into spring training, and it's very much more about him getting his work in. And there will be guys like him will go out there and not even throw anything other than like their fastball in the first inning. And that's the choice that they've made because that's how they're stacked to work through whatever work they need to get done that day. So quite literally, his goal is not even to record an out. His goal is to get his work in and work on what he needs to work on. That's how
Right.
different it is in perspective of a game where you clearly your goal is to get outs and move through the inning as efficiently as possible and directly challenge the hitter. That kind of strategy is quite literally not even going on in a spring training game, let alone I saw someone who was like calling out bullpen management. Suzy, tell us why that is just complete and utter nonsense, please.
Oh god. I don't understand why you're not happy with Joe Musgrove not recording it out in the first inning and then going through 8 relievers before you can even switch sides before your team even gets to fucking bat. What's happening right now?
No.
I listen, and again, I don't know how it is with football or basketball or any other sport basically because I'm a casual and I only started watching baseball recently. But from my understanding, it's literally so that pitchers can get used to throwing again, and it doesn't even matter pitch types because they're going to
Right,
work on what they're going to work on. Like you said, Joe Musgrove
exactly.
only working on fastballs, and there's going to be a number limit that their coaches are going to put on them. So it doesn't matter if they can't get out of the inning if they've hit 25 pitches. Out you come. It's literally so pitchers can get their work, batters can get timing down, work on defensive stuff. We listen. I understand that people are going to overreact because that is just human nature. What? Humans overreacting? I think we're
Sports
all
fans?
rational human beings here. But it really is just so that you players can get actual work in that are not on their own team. Okay. As a fan that had their first game yesterday, I understand. I understand the overreacting because a part of me was in fact overreacting. The other part of me was just so fucking happy that I got to watch my own team. I got to watch
Right.
the guys that I know their entire life story on the field. I was so happy. Literally, my Grinch heart just grew 43 sizes and I was ecstatic.
That's
Um,
what it's really for too, for the
yeah,
fan. It's cool that we get access to them at this point
yes,
and that there's people that can go to the games and
yeah.
it's
If you've
almost
never
like a simulated
apparently been to a spring training game, if you go early, very super early, you get access to the players will sign and take pictures with you, and it's much less restrictive than a
game.
game in season. I was a dumbass and went the year after COVID, and they still had COVID restrictions,
Oh, yeah.
and so you could not go early for batting practice and do all of the fun.
Yeah, the point is the spring training games are not the same as regular games for a number of reasons. Obviously, they're switching out the players like constantly because it's all about people getting their work in. And the pitchers specifically, and probably a lot of I'm sure the position player stuff too, it's all planned ahead of time. So it has nothing to do with what actually happens in the game. There's nothing reactionary or strategic about it. So that's all there is to it. I-
I don't even I don't even know what happened. I don't did I just disappear for a little bit?
You did. And now you're
Oh,
back.
good. Oh, all right. Hooray. Okay. So again, I don't know where I even stopped. Who knows what you're going to hear and what you're not going to hear. We'll see. We'll just go on with the show. Anyhow.
You said that you went in 2021 for spring training, so they still had a lot of COVID restrictions,
Oh, yes.
so you didn't have the same kind of access to players that fans typically do that now is definitely back in full swing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just put a pin in it by saying like all of the pitchers who are going to pitch, the position player changes, those are all things that are decided before the game even starts. There is nothing reactionary or strategic about what's happening in a spring training game. And I think that's important to understand. And again, if that's not something that you knew about, we're not here to judge you. We're not here
Yeah.
to make you feel stupid because that's not our style. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it is weird that it's like a game. They had 2 weeks of spring
Yeah.
training or so before games. So you would think, okay, they're practicing, getting ready for games. Now they're playing games. So if you didn't know, now,
Now I know.
and if
And
you don't like
again,
watching a game that's not competitive, that's fine.
yeah.
Tune in on March 30th,
Yeah.
31st, whatever.
Well, for the games that have the quote unquote big boys in it, because today will be the Astros first quote unquote big boy lineup. Typically the closer you get to opening day, the more you will get these more
Yeah.
regular lineups, and the guys will probably get the first couple of innings. So if you do go to one of the spring training games or you're watching one of the spring training games and you tune in, I don't know, say at the 8th inning and you don't know anybody because they're all like double A, triple A guys,
Yeah.
don't worry. Literally, the big guys are only going to get 2, maybe 3 at bats. So first 4-ish innings,
Yeah.
and then they're going to rotate everybody out and get in all of the guys that you don't know, probably some prospects, probably depending on your team. There may be guys fighting for jobs. There may be guys
Totally.
just that are like super young, but the club really likes them and wants to see how they can do against some better quote unquote competition, things like that. Again, if you go to one of the games, if you watch one of the games, tune in early to see the guys that you know, the bigger guys. And
Yeah.
then
I
you know,
guess you
go
bring
from
up a
there.
really good point too, that there are some guys that it is more competitive in the sense that it does matter what they do. They're not just going to show up and throw fastballs like Joe Musgrove
Yeah.
because they are competing for a spot on the roster. So it really depends on, yeah, where the player is at, what the club needs to see from them, and what has been communicated to them is like their specific goals. So not even everyone in the game is there for the same purpose and like playing for the same
Mhm.
purpose, which is clearly not like a normal game. But yeah, I think they start to, I don't know if release people is the right word, but they like cut people and
Yeah.
start to assign them into the minor league system towards the end of spring training too. So that is a really good point that you will see more of your everyday players closer to the start of the regular season.
Yep. Yep. Again, the Astros played the Nats yesterday, and poor Patrick Corbin is throwing like 50. I think he was at 52 pitches, I think, before
I thought you were going to say he was
before
throwing
they
50 miles per hour.
Oh no.
I was like, oh
No,
God.
no, no.
Sometimes that's a thing that happens too, though, with
Yeah.
pitchers. You see them working their way up in velocity,
Yeah.
but that would be extreme. Anyway, continue.
No, I think he was up to 50, like 2 pitches before they said, okay, like we got to go. Couldn't get out. I don't think he got out of the first inning.
Wow.
So then they put in, I don't remember the second guy, but they put in the second guy. It was iffy. I think we scored 6 runs in the first 2 innings or something. We suffice it to say, like we led off with a stand-up triple and then a double and then 2 hit by pitches. The pitchers are getting work, guys.
Yeah,
Everyone's
you're going to
getting
see
tired.
those high scoring games for sure.
Yeah.
Because again, the goal is not to get through outs and move through the game
Yeah.
as efficiently as possible. And
What are you talking
yeah,
about? High scoring games? I didn't see the Yankees score 22 runs. What?
and
That's
all of
not
their
right.
fans were like, 22 runs, baby. Here come the Yankees. Yeah. That's when I texted you and was like, can I be honest? I love you, Yankees fans. I do, but sometimes, not all of you, there's a specific group of Yankees fans that I'm like, okay, let's
Just
reality check with the rest of baseball here, please.
That's so funny. I honestly, like, I'm a little interested to see that game though because I'm all, what happened? What are we doing here? But I unfortunately did not have the time to check in on that game, and that makes me a little sad. So I'll have
It
to
is
check
weird.
in on the
It
Yankee
is weird
continue.
watching a game knowing that the outcome of it, one,
Doesn't
literally
matter.
doesn't matter for anything. For perspective, the Cardinals won the Grapefruit League in spring training. They had the best record in spring training last year. Clearly, that directly correlated to the regular season.
For sure.
No, a perfect example of where these things don't translate. So it is weird watching a game, and obviously you want to see action and you want to see your team win and do well. But yeah, just don't get too hung up on it. You're not looking for the same things that you would look for in a regular season game. And
Yeah.
just keep your blood pressure down. It's just not worth getting upset about.
Yeah. And just be thrilled that it's baseball. You get to watch your favorite team
Yeah.
play ball, and in a little over a month, there will be games that actually matter. Okay. Someone tempered my excitement yesterday by saying, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to watch until opening day. That's fine. That
Totally
is
fine.
fine. You do you, boo. You do you.
Yeah.
Okay. But why are you going to try and tamper down somebody's excitement
Yeah.
over
Don't knock on our
literally
yum.
has nothing to do with you? If you don't like it, scroll on by. That's what I'm saying, people. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
What would we do without those trolls, though, Susie? This wouldn't be
Yeah.
your last episode.
You got me. You got me, trolls. You won. I
Let's do
should just
one
go
last.
read all of the things about Andrelton Simmons. Actually, you know what? I'll be honest though. I learned way more about Andrelton Simmons than I ever thought I was going to.
Yeah, could you maybe spend the next 3 years reading up on him and then
Yeah.
come back and we'll try this again?
Yeah. The apparently most defensive badass that has ever lived.
Ever.
Andrelton Simmons. Just bookmark that, okay?
Should we
didn't
do
learn
one
anything
last?
from this podcast. That's what you should learn, people.
Should we do one last 40-man find before you, for old time's sake?
I suppose, just so that maybe the people that actually listen to it learn a thing or two
Yeah.
from the casuals, aka you and I,
Yes.
about something else. So,
Never
I don't
know what you're going to find out in the 40-man find. To be clear, we do have more than one 40-man find left, but we are getting down to it here. We have been working our way up through all 30 teams, and I say working our way up because we started with the teams that had the worst records in 2023, and we're now getting closer to the teams that had all winning records. You're going to see all the playoff teams here, but we are picking one singular player from their 40-man roster that you may or may not know anything about, and just telling you a little bit about him. They might be a guy who has some untapped potential. They might be a guy that we just think would be cool to hang out with. But yeah, they're probably a guy who's not like super hot and heavy on your radar. So I'm doing the American League teams because I am clearly of a National League fandom. So I'm gonna learn a little bit more about the American League players and teams. And Susie is hitting up the National League teams to balance out her American League fandom as well. So when we first got on, Suzy was very put off. She almost quit before before she could even get on now to quit on me because I'm wearing a Texas Rangers shirt. But I'm wearing a Texas Rangers shirt because the Rangers are my team for the 40-man fine today. And I feel like this is a little bit of a cop-out, but I am going to tell you about one of the newest Texas Rangers, their new backup catcher, former St. Louis Cardinal, Andrew Kisner. You dropped out just as I was saying Suzy almost quit on me before the trolls got her to quit because of my Ranger shirt. So I really thought you just left because of that.
This is a good show, guys. Very professional. I'm sorry. Keep going. It's so good. I love it.
Something is Mercury in retrograde. I don't actually know what that means, but I feel like that's what people say when technical issues happen. Anyway, I was just telling the people that I am going to tell you about Andrew Kisner, who's on the Rangers. And Andrew Kisner was born on February 3rd of 1995 in Glen Allen, Virginia. For all that I know about Kiz, because he has been on the St. Louis Cardinals for his first 5 major league seasons, I did not know that he was from Virginia, but that's probably because I'm a casual. Kisner attended Hanover High School in Mechanicsville, Virginia, and during his senior year, he was captain of the school's baseball team while batting .453 with 5 home runs, leading Hanover to the Virginia Class State Championship. He then attended North Carolina State University, where he played college baseball for the NC State Wolfpack. Kisner was named to the Louisville Slugger freshman All-American team, and prior to his sophomore year of college is actually when he switched from third base. So all through high school, got into college as a baseball player as a third baseman, switched to catcher in college. In 2014 and 2015, he played collegiate summer ball in the Cape Cod Baseball League for the Wareham Gatemen. And as a junior, he batted .292 with 6 home runs and 30 RBIs, along with a .991 fielding percentage. He threw out 16 of 37 base runners attempting to steal. And it was after his junior year then. So he only played 2 seasons of collegiate ball as a catcher before he was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals in the 7th round of the 2016 MLB draft. A lot of what I'm going to tell you here about Andrew Kisner coming up through the minor leagues is to point out that what you may not know about him and what I'm sure Rangers fans have not heard about him, and that is that he came up as a bat first catcher. So Kisner signed with the St. Louis Cardinals and he made his professional debut with the Johnson City Cardinals. He had a .319 batting average, 6 home runs, and 42 RBIs in 53 games. He was named to the Appalachian League postseason All-Star team. And then he started 2017 with the Peoria Chiefs. Shout out Peoria Chiefs. That's where I come from. He was the starting catcher as well that season with the Midwest League All-Star game. In June of 2017, he was promoted to the Double-A Springfield Cardinals, so working his way up pretty quickly. And he finished 2017 with a combined .302 batting average, 12 home runs, 51 RBIs, and 95 total games between the two clubs. With Springfield alone, once he moved up, he batted .324 in 51 games. After the season, the Cardinals then assigned Kisner to the Arizona Fall League, which we have talked about before during the 40-man find as being a league that a lot of the up-and-coming, most promising players in the minor league system will play in. He was named the AFL Hitter of the Week in the first week of the Arizona Fall League season after he had 8 hits, 2 home runs, and 5 RBIs and 17 at-bats. So he was then selected to participate in the Fall Stars game as well. Kisner finished the 2017 AFL batting .358, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, and a .940 OPS in 17 games. This earns him a non-roster invite to 2018 spring training with the Cardinals. So he begins 2018 back in Springfield Double-A, bats .333, slashes .412, .467 with 2 home runs and 18 RBIs in just 27 games. This gets him promoted to Triple-A, to the Memphis Redbirds. And he ends up popping back down to Springfield because, Carson Kelly comes around. I forgot about that.
Okay.
But anyway, in July of 2018, he is selected to represent the Cardinals in the All-Star Futures game, another thing you hear a lot about in these 40-man find conversations. And in 2018, in 94 games played between Springfield and Memphis, Kisner slashed .313, .368, .430 with 7 home runs and 45 RBIs. Again, I'd like to point out that he was always considered a bat-first catcher coming up through the minor leagues, especially considering that he switched to catcher midway through college. I think Cardinals fans knew this, and perhaps that is why they were disappointed when he came up and this happened. He made his major league debut at Busch Stadium on June 2nd of 2019 versus the Chicago Cubs. He was 0 for 3 that day. He was optioned back to Memphis in the middle of June, but came back up about a month later. And his first major league hit came on July 17th against Chris Archer of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Cardinals won that day. So he starts to get a little bit of action going, but he's not playing a ton. He finishes the 2019 rookie regular season batting .226 with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs over just 53 at bats. So not a ton of action at the plate. And from everything we just went over, that right there is the biggest thing that you're going to notice was a huge adjustment for Kisner. Is not the only guy that this happens to, but he was starting. He was playing every day on every level of the minor leagues. He bopped his way up really quickly. And then all of a sudden he went to having 53 at bats over the course of a season. So we talk a lot about how baseball is a game of consistency, and you hear everybody talk about getting the reps in and blah, blah, blah. And there's just so much validity to that. And while Kisner himself I've never heard him make this excuse for himself, it's very clear that like the lack of consistency and the lack of focus on honestly his performance at the plate is a big part of why we never saw his numbers in the minor leagues translate to the major leagues. It's not what he was expected to do in his role for the Cardinals. So in 2020, he only gets 17 at bats across 8 games, 4 hits and 4 RBIs. For the 2021 season, Kiz returns as Yadier Molina's backup. He did have 161 at bats over 63 games, but he slashes only 174, 281, 236 with 1 home run, 9 RBIs, and 7 doubles. He did see a lot more playing time in 2022 because Molina was hurt quite a bit. So he got 260 at bats in 96 games. He started almost all of those games and slashed 215, 301, 300 with 4 home runs and 25 RBIs. On January 13th, 2023, Kiz agrees to a 1-year, $1.1 million contract with the Cardinals, avoiding salary arbitration. And this is when he comes in to presumably back up Wilson Contreras, who the Cardinals signed in the offseason upon Yadier Molina's retirement. But we're about a month into the season on May 6th when the Cardinals announced that Andrew Kisner is going to take over as the primary catcher, as the Cardinals are going to shift Wilson Contreras, their largest free agent contract outside of anyone who has previously played for the team. They're just going to pay him to be a DH. That lasted for less than 2 weeks because Contreras did return to catching duties by May 15th. But the thing that I think was glossed over here is that pitchers love throwing to Andrew Kisner. A huge part of the reason he was even kept on the team, because we do have a really exciting catching prospect who you're going to see more of this year in the Cardinals system that honestly probably could have handled himself last year as well. But with the transition, the turnover, the starting rotation, had to keep Kiz around. Yadier Molina, I'm sure, was a huge advocate for that because they had a really good relationship. And obviously, he took every opportunity that he could to learn from Yadi over his time backing him up. But he really was just like this guy who had a specific role, kept his head down, had the best attitude about it. And I would get so irritated when I would see Cardinals fans give him shit about not coming through in an offensive opportunity. And you're like, he's batting 8th or 9th. Do you think, yeah, no, that's not the guy who's going to come through for you in a huge offensive moment. Get over it. And I just think a lot of Cardinals fans were not super clear on just accepting him for what his role was. And he did a damn good job at what his role was. So while Contreras had returned to catching duties by May 15th, Kisner did still regularly catch Miles Michaelis, and he was actually named the team captain by his teammates for the 2023 season. Now, don't let the way the Cardinals season ended deter you from how cool that is. His teammates actually requested that like a C be put on like his workout uniform and stuff because he just set the tone. He always had such a good attitude and he led by example on and off the field. However, Kisner was non-tendered by the Cardinals on November 17th of 2023. Last season, Kisner had one of his best seasons at the plate because, he got to bat a lot more regularly. And for the first time ever, he got this vote of confidence from the team of being like,
Right.
hey, yeah, this guy, we just signed this catcher to a huge contract, but you actually have some skills that maybe he doesn't necessarily have, or you bring a certain amount of value that I really think had never been directly communicated to him before. Gee, no wonder that getting some more consistent at bats and a vote of confidence stepped up his performance. So he batted .241, which is right around league average. He had career highs in home runs with 10 and 31 RBIs in just 70 games. His WRC plus last season was 92, which is 8% below league average, but it is average for the catching position. In early January of this year, the Texas Rangers signed Andrew Kisner to a 1-year, $1.825 million deal. He is expected to be the backup for Jonah Heim, given his big league experience. So I know they do have another backup catcher who's young that's gotten bopped up and down, similar guys to Kiz that they've had as the backup to Jonah Heim before. So sorry for him. I forget what his name is. Sam something. Sorry, Sam.
Huff.
I think Kiz.
Sam Huff.
Sam Huff. I think Kiz is probably going to get that backup job, but We'll see. He does still have an option left, I believe, in the minor leagues. So here's the thing about Kiz. His defensive metrics don't necessarily dazzle, other than blocking. He is considered a above average blocker by StatCast. But surely he was greenlit and perhaps even sought out by Rangers pitching coach Mike Maddox, who was previously with the St. Louis Cardinals 4 years and worked with Kiz for 4 of his 5 seasons in the major leagues. Pitchers love throwing to and working with Andrew Knizner. A month or so ago, Cannon Peebles, who is a current collegiate catcher that is definitely on the scouts' radar, who is catching at Kiz's alma mater in North Carolina, he was on Foul Territory, and he actually spoke about Andrew Knizner's willingness to help develop him as a catcher, more so on, or mostly on, the mental side of the game. And that's something that, again, does not always translate into the hard metrics. Catching metrics are so interesting too, because I have heard guys even like Eric Kratz, who is a career professional catcher who is now on Foul Territory, talk about how, and I think AJ Brzezinski, who's on Foul Territory as well, has agreed with him on this, that they don't fully understand them or see how they play out in real time necessarily. And so that's why, I don't know, I'm obviously like a Kiz truther, so I'm here to tell you, like, don't look at his negative 18 defensive runs saved. Totally fine. I just think there's a lot more to it than maybe those metrics can capture for us. And I do think Andrew Knizner is like a career guy like Eric Kratz, where I hate when we hear Kratz say things like, I wasn't good at baseball, whatever. It's like, you were a major league baseball player for
Right.
what, 8 seasons. No, you brought a certain amount of value that, like, sometimes the value is not something that we see in hard metrics. And I'm a big fan of those kinds of guys. I think Knizner is definitely that kind of guy. So to wrap it up on a personal note, I'll tell you that Kiz got engaged to former NFL cheerleader and ESPN marketing consultant Ali Ron this offseason. They have been together for years, and they have a mini porty doodle, which is apparently a Portuguese water dog and poodle mix.
Oh, okay.
Her name is Luna, and they live in Jupiter, Florida, where he regularly catches huge fish with Miles Michaelis on his fishing boat. And Kiz is also, this is another thing that kind of makes me think that he's along the lines of an Eric Kratz. He is a media team's dream. He is always a great interview. He is always willing to commit fully to bits for that regional cable journalism that we love. So Texas Rangers fans, you are in for a treat. And I think any team would be happy to have an Andrew Knizner. Surely his teammates are going to be really happy to have him around. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about Andrew Knizner.
Thank you. I was not aware about all of Andrew Knizner's bopping up and down. I saw the rigmarole last year, 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, when that whole Wilson Contreras, which
that was just this past season when they were literally like, yeah, no, actually Andrew Knizner is our primary catcher now. Obviously that didn't last for very long,
right.
But the reasoning for it was because obviously there was a disconnect between the pitchers and the catcher. And I know you're familiar with having a backup catcher or a catcher on your team that pitchers are particularly fond of, but I think that Knizner also, what people forget about him is that, like, he does have the offensive potential. He's not been necessarily given the opportunity to see that through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Kelsey. It's not like Martin Maldonado was the second worst catcher in the major leagues last season and took up a valuable spot on the Astros roster. What? It's the vibes. It's the vibes, Kelsey. It's the vibes. It's all about the vibes. Anyhow, I apologize about if you guys are on YouTube, if you have seen me bop in and out of the screen, I'm having some technical difficulties today. So if you no longer hear my voice and Kelsey have to awkwardly take over, if you're podcast only, just know that I'm trying my hardest today. Today apparently is not
I might dance.
going to
ass hands.
Yeah.
Write a song on the
well
spot. You never know what's going to happen. Please don't leave me.
I'm so sorry. But today, 40-man fine for the NL side for the 90-win Phillies is Orion Kirkering.
Orion. I don't know who this person is. What?
Casual.
Yeah. I'll show myself out. Good thing this is my last week too.
Yeah. Technically, his name is Richard Orion Kirkering.
Okay.
Has the same actual name as his father and grandfather. They all go by their middle name, however. Richard and Todd. That's grandfather and father. Yep. But they wanted Orion because it was a little different. But apparently, Orion Kirkering was born in Huntington Beach, California, but raised in Florida. He attended Venice High School in, obviously, Venice, Florida. And the end of his sophomore year, that's where we're going to begin our journey about learning about Orion Kirkering, was in 2017. He was barely getting out JV.
Leaving us again. Okay, I'm going to tell you a fun fact about I don't know if it's actually fun. Maybe it's just interesting that last week Susie did the Diamondbacks for her 40-man find team, and I told you we're going in the order of teams with the best records. The Diamondbacks had 84 wins. The Phillies have 90 wins. So that was the next closest team to the Phillies in the National League. 84 wins to 90 wins. It just so shows the kind of absurd amount of disparity in the National League. That's not the case so much in the American League. Anyway, that was my fun fact. You're back.
Yeah. Ta-da! Magic trick, guys. Anyhow, so 2017, he was barely striking out any JV players, and the coach was less than impressed, let's just say. But apparently, in the summertime in 2017, he got right with it. And coming from his Marine father's background, apparently he got into a routine, and the mental toughness that we all hear about in baseball took over, and he got himself right. And over the summer, he gained 10 miles an hour in 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So in
incredible.
high school, apparently he was hitting 88, 89. And that is when all of the college coaches started coming around. So as a junior, his record was 7-4 with a 1.19 ERA. He threw 99 strikes in 76 innings, strikeouts, excuse me. I'm such a casual. As a senior, his record was 5-1 with a 1.41 ERA and 62 strikeouts in 39 innings. His slider was his best pitch. And according to his high school coach, when it was right, ain't no one hitting it. He got recruited by a couple of different colleges, but chose to attend the University of South Florida right there in Tampa because they had a reputation for developing pitchers for professional baseball. And obviously, that is the goal that all of these kids have, right? So, in 3 seasons, he had 19 appearances with 10 starts, and he went 5-7 with 3 saves with a 5.72 ERA. He struck out 91 batters over 67 and 2/3 innings.
Ooh.
Yes. So, in 2022, the Phillies saw him at the combine and had very nice things to say about him. He had a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, a curveball, a changeup, and then obviously that slider that was hitting 83 to 85 because obviously if you put too much velocity on the slider, it doesn't slide as much, not as much break. So that's good. 83 to 85 mile an hour slider. And he played 6 games in 2020 for the Phillies Complex League and then 5 in the Florida State League. Okay. So then in 2023, he skyrocketed through the Phillies minor league system. He began the season at low Class A Clearwater,
What?
then and then advanced to Class A Jersey Shore, then went to Double A Reading, then played a single game in AAA Lehigh Valley. That's the Iron Pigs.
Pigs, baby.
Yes.
That's a fun place to be. I'm sad for him. He didn't get to hang out some more.
Yep, they said, nope, 1. You get
Damn.
a game, single one in AAA, but in the entirety of his career in the minors, he was 4-1 with 14 saves, a 1.51 ERA with 79 strikeouts and 12 walks in 53 and 2/3
Hot
innings.
damn. Bring him up.
Yes. Oh
Okay,
yeah,
I get
and
it.
so they did. So the Phillies were like, you know what? Screw it. I don't know why we're wasting all of these bullets in the minors. We're gonna bring him up. So September 22nd, he was added to the Phillies 40-man. And then September 25th, he made his major league debut.
Wowie.
Yes. Made his major league debut. And now I have to switch to my phone because that's always fun. Made his major league debut against who was it? Nope. I've lost it now. It's gone. Cool. That's always
These
fun.
games like really mattered too for the Phillies because I think they were always pretty obviously going to be in the postseason, but they definitely struggled earlier on in the season more than anticipated. So it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
like they had clinched and were just like throwing him out there to give some other guys some rest, I would assume at this point.
Yeah, no. So it was with the Mets was his major league debut where he struck out 2. And that was really cool when he made his major league debut because his father obviously was able to attend that and you could just see like tears streaming down his father's face, and it was just freaking precious. And again, that slider is just not so good. And then was actually really good, making everybody else not so good.
Mm.
And his first 3 appearances in the regular season were awesome. Nobody knew where this guy came from. If you were not in this
Yeah, I
Phillies
bet.
organization, everyone's like, I'm sorry, what? And then to play with less than 50 games left in the regular season and then being added to the wild card and then not the wild card, the NLCS roster. Everyone's like, I'm sorry, Rob Thompson, what's happening here? What are you doing? So here is his disgusting 88-mile-an-hour sweeper. Unfortunately, he didn't do really well against the Diamondbacks, if you remember that. But
Oh, damn. I'm surprised I
yeah,
don't remember his name, but now that you're saying that, I'm like, okay, yeah,
yeah,
that guy.
that's that guy. So apparently, he is one of those ones, if you will recall what we said about spring training, where some people are vying for jobs, some people are safe. He is one of those that are vying for a job. They do think that he is high up on the totem pole getting that job, but they're thinking that he will probably be one of the closers because Rob Thompson doesn't really, quote unquote, have a closer, but will play the matchups. And so he is one of those ones that will be on his matchup list. Everybody was asking Rob Thompson what he thought about him. Is that going to be a problem with his NLCS stuff? And Rob Thompson says, absolutely not. That's why we brought him up. We wanted to see how he was going to do. And you know what? He got shelled, and that's okay. He's young. However,
Right.
did he bounce back? Did he sulk? No. He went out there, did it again. And he's really high up on that totem pole. In the future, for the Phillies, look out for Orion Kirkering. He's probably going to be
Hmm.
a high leverage arm out of that bullpen for Rob Thompson. He will probably be paired. You'll probably hear him the back end of that bullpen with Sir Anthony Dominguez and just like the big guys. And you're like, I'm sorry, who? 22
Yeah,
years
he's like taking that Craig Kimbrell spot. I love it.
old.
How old is he?
22. His birthday is April 4th,
Wow.
I believe.
Wow.
He was born April 4th, 2001. So he's 22. So when the season starts, like right after the season starts, he will be 23. So 23-year-old right-handed relief pitcher, Orion. First
I
name.
hope he'll be celebrating it on the big league roster.
Yep.
I think we're gonna go to not Phillies opening day, but the second game of the season at Citizens Banks. I hope he's gonna be there. That'll be right before his birthday.
Yay, that'll be awesome. Yeah. So hopefully you can see him and then you can be like, that's Orion Kirkering. I know who he is.
I know about him. Let me tell you. Just a casual over here. All right, I'm gonna tell you. I gotta tell Susie about this new segment too, because I'm not sure she knows about it. But we go through the hot stove headlines, but as we're getting closer to the season, there are maybe a few less hot stove headlines than there have been throughout the off season. There's still a good amount that we're gonna get to today. But before we do that, we are going to introduce a brand new segment I like to call Sexy or Scandalous. Because of course, all things in professional sports are either sexy or scandalous. The first thing that we're going to talk about here, Susie, is the thing that I do think people have come here for. I'm sorry that we made them wait 45 minutes into this episode to hear from us on the storyline that is just taking over the Major League Baseball offseason. And that is about the new uniforms, specifically the pants on the new uniforms in Major League Baseball. I can't wait to get your take on this, but just to give the listeners some background in case you're not up to speed here, the pants, you can see through them. They are like paper thin. You can see the jersey fully tucked into them, which is not, I've never noticed that before. Never noticed even the jersey tucked into the pants before, but then you can see straight through them. So whatever they are wearing or not wearing underneath them, you can see. It is just, there's no question. Tony Clark,
It
who is the
leaves
head.
little to the imagination. Let's just tell you that.
Absolutely. Yes. And if you want to, you can go out and find images that I feel terrible that have honestly been made publicly, but they're there forever. And Tony Clark of the MLBPA, which is the players union, was quoted in an article from The Athletic saying, "The universal concern is the pant. Each conversation with the guys is yielding more information. A lot of the rhetoric was confirmation that it appears the pants are see-through."
Yes.
So I guess
Yeah.
we're not
And
the only
so,
ones saying this out there.
side note, apparently the MLB came back and said, no, these are the same pants that y'all had last season. I don't know what you're talking about. That's
Yes,
not the
the
actual
exact
quote,
quote.
but
I wrote it
that's
on here
the
because
theme.
this is how outrageous it is. This was a quote that was given from a Major League Baseball official to the Wall Street Journal. They said the uniform pants have the same material and thickness as the uniform pants used last season. There were changes to the fabric of the jersey, not the pants.
Yeah. FYI, in case you're wondering what the term gaslighting means, that's what that is. That's what that is right there.
You're gonna look it up at you're gonna look up gaslighting in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and there's not gonna be a definition, no words, just a picture of the 2024 pants next to the 2023 pants.
It's so bad. Listen, I understand it's a thing now. It is a thing, and this should not be a thing. Should not be a thing that we're talking about.
No, I feel terrible for them, honestly. And I know a lot of the guys, like I've seen a lot of quotes from them being like, it's about competing, like we don't care what we're wearing, blah, blah, blah. And of course, that's to some extent the mentality that you want them to have. But I guess for me, it seems so black and white. And I think part of the reason is I always compare working in the entertainment industry because that's what I have experience doing, but it is similar in a lot of ways. And what I do know, I don't know what a Major League Baseball contract looks like, but I know it's not a single page that they signed. There's a lot to it. And something that you sign when you sign a contract as an actor is there's extensive language about what you can and cannot do to your physical being, what you're expected to wear, the fact that you have been to a fitting, you have been shown what you're going to wear, you are comfortable with what you're going to wear, you are not going to alter your physical being so that your costume has to be altered, all of those sorts of things. And if I was put in anything that it has to be held up on both ends. Obviously, that's my end of it, is that I'm my favorite thing from one of my first big contracts was that I couldn't get face tattoos. And I was like, oh, darn,
In case you were
man.
planning on doing that.
I really didn't want one, but now that I had to sign a contract saying that I can't get one, but it's upheld on both sides. So in my mind, if I was put in something on stage that was see-through or was in any way revealing in a way that I did not agree to in my written contract, I would go to at first I would go to the costume department and be like, "Hey, can we fix this?" And if they did not immediately fix it, like they are being put out in public now on television, in games, let alone in photographs, in these uniforms. If it was
Right.
not immediately corrected, I would go to the actors union the same way that like they're going to the players union. And I hate that I've seen quotes now, even from Tony Clark, being like, "We don't know how quickly or if this will really be resolved." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be dramatic about it, but it is a big deal because it's so ridiculous. Like this shouldn't. I can't even believe
Yeah.
that this has
Well,
come
and
up.
then they said that it was the lighting that made it see-through, and I'm sorry, what now? As a photographer, I understand, but
Sure,
it's not that bad.
it should be in
It's
any
really
lighting. That should be
mhm,
fine.
okay? Just because there's a quote unquote flash put onto it, it should not be see-through enough to where I can see the outline of your cojones. Okay? That should be not a
Have you
thing.
ever been working on a photography job and been like, "Oh, the shots come out and you'll have to correct some things because" Also, I
Yeah.
would figure you can correct those things, right? So the other thing that's I didn't even think about that these are being
Yeah.
put out and they probably could have been color corrected.
Believe you me, I've had to Photoshop out a lot of unsightly, let's just put it professionally, unsightly things so as to not embarrass people, okay? Now, I
Yeah,
understand that there is a fast turnaround that people have to do, that the production team has to
sure.
do, the media teams have to do. I get it. I understand. However, some of that could have been a different direction in which the player is posed or
Totally.
the angle at which you are photographing. It does not need to be straight up the crotch, guys. It doesn't. And I realize that a lot of the guys that are or a lot of the people, because there are the women photographers as well, a lot of the people that are photographing may be more familiar with the more candid photojournalistic style of capturing things as it happens, and I understand. But
Mhm.
pose wise, there is an art to posing, and everyone's like, I can be a photographer. Okay, now here's where I shine. Hand up. I'm one of those where this is what I do for a living. I have to realize, okay, so if I turn the guys this way towards the light and you are wearing a very skin tight thing that can show all the things off, and now the light and the shadows are now playing off of certain things. I'm all right, let's how about we just turn you the other way? We'll just turn you the other way, not mentioning anything because again, I don't want to embarrass anybody. So we're just gonna turn you the other way, and those other shots just go by the wayside. I'm just saying, people. But it's one of those that I'm like, I don't even know why this is a talking point because it shouldn't be a talking point as a major league organization. I can see it if we're talking about a high school
Totally. Yeah.
or little league. Okay, why are we having to talk about it when I have to spend $4,000 to take my all four of us to a
Yeah.
freaking game? Okay, what are we doing
Right.
here, people?
It is, yeah, literally a billion-dollar industry. This is just
Yeah,
not something that shouldn't
it
have been
shouldn't
tried and
be.
tested.
And you've heard players talk about the fact that the pants are no longer customizable. You cannot get it tighter or bigger, or to have the cuffs looser, tighter.
Yeah.
All of that. Apparently, it's just small, medium, large. You don't fit those. Sorry, you're SOL. Are we gonna
That's like,
get?
you can go to Kohl's and get pants that are more customized than that shit. What are we
Yeah,
doing? The
I
other thing
don't.
that I thought was really interesting that I had not considered, and I thought it was cool that the Reds catcher, Luke is it Malley? Luke Mail? Luke, I don't know how to say your last name, Luke. I'm so sorry. Anyway, the Reds catcher spoke to he's quoted in the same article from The Athletic about the whole thing, saying, "I think the biggest misconception right now is it's not just players complaining and being prima donnas about the pants that they're wearing. We work with clubhouse attendants every single day. They take care of virtually everything in our lives, and the amount of work that they've had to go through only to see this kind of fall short is pretty disappointing, not just on our end, but for them as well." And he talks more in this article about how the people who are really taking the fall for this are the clubhouse attendants who are working really hard and really ultimately have no control over it. That's
Right.
always how it works though, right? It's never the people at the top at Nike and Fanatics and MLB that are trying to pinch pennies that have to hear the feedback and deal with the fallout. It's the people who are actually just trying to do their jobs and making hardly a fraction of the amount of money.
Yeah.
as the people who actually made these decisions. So I thought that was, whether he was asked about it from that perspective, the way that the article reads, it seems like he just very much brought that up. So I thought that was cool that he spoke to it from that regard, because that's a really important point too. And it
For
sucks.
sure. For sure.
And
Yeah.
we haven't even talked about the jerseys yet, because, okay, first of all, I'll say not all the teams even have the new pants because there's a shortage. Last night you texted me and you were like, "Is Joey Gallo wearing the new pants?" Because I can't see through his pants.
Right.
But no,
Very
they're
disappointed.
not all wearing the new pants
Yeah.
because they don't even have enough of them either. What the hell is going on? And on
Yeah.
top of that, the jerseys are flimsy. And quote from an unnamed Orioles player, the look of it is like a knockoff jersey from TJ Maxx. The coloring and the logos look different and cheap.
Yeah.
And then you've got these Nike sponsored athletes. I don't know. Maybe they're not all Nike sponsored athletes, but Jason Hayward, to name a few, were commenting that the jerseys do feel lighter, more breathable, which they like. So the feel of them, they're not necessarily complaining
Yeah.
about.
So apparently, because they are lighter and more breathable, that requires a different technique on
Okay.
putting the lettering and the patches and all that stuff on. And so instead of the thicker sewn on embroidered type look, which you think when you are paying $400+ for
Literally.
these quote unquote authentic jerseys, I'm expecting some of that. These new ones, apparently, it almost looks like screen printed on.
It does. Yeah.
And some of the lettering is just a weird kerning, and kerning is like the spacing between the letters and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, what are we doing here? And I know that, again, it's quote unquote trivial, but the guys that are coming up that are just breaking into camp, that this is their first time making it into camp, that's part of what they're excited to get, is one of these jerseys that are badass, that are thick and heavy, and they have them, and then they get them and you're all, I could have gotten this at Walmart with, what is this? And it's just, again, they'll play in anything. They're just excited to be there. I get it. But a little part of them has got to just be like, all right, sorry, guess I'm playing this.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And I do think the feel of them is most important. And I've even heard guys, they're like, whatever, we'll play in whatever, as long as it's not inhibiting me from doing what I need to be able to do. Sure. But I think it's important that they're comfortable and they're not thinking about how it feels to be able to play. And yeah, I don't know. I get the whole, like, there are different materials, so there is everything has to be different about them to some extent to make them better in this way. These should be being made and developed at like the highest level from the companies who make the most money and have the latest technology and all of this. Figure out a better way. None of that really.
R&D, who dropped the ball here is what I need to know, because you know that at some point no one's stopped to ask any major league player, hey, thoughts? We're gonna change this. What? Anything? Or were they just aware all of the things?
They didn't have their Nike sponsored athletes trying them out for them and getting their feedback. They said they did, but clearly they didn't. And it's just really, I think at the end of the day, it's really hard to see it any differently than they're trying to save money. And that's really, it's funny because I think this is actually very representative, not to get too deep into a conversation outside of baseball, but I think it is representative of a lot of things that are happening right now, of where these big corporations are skimping here and there on things. And it might happen even a little bit over time, but we're all now buying things that are either smaller or of lower quality for more. We're paying more. Mm-hmm. Quality is less. And it's just creating greater and greater disparity, which we just really don't need. But you know what, America? So I'll just wrap this up with a quote from Robbie, from good old Rob Manfred, who says, I think that after people wear them for a little bit, they're going to be really popular.
Look, we can be super excited because in 2029, we will no longer have Rob Manfred. 2029, people.
2029, we won't be able to see through the pants. Until then,
enjoy all the cock and balls.
I guess. I read something. It was some article that was like, people were so excited to see Shohei Ohtani bat for the first time in his Dodger uniform when suddenly their concern turned to seeing more of Shohei Ohtani than they wanted to. There's so many journalists. You are killing it. There were so many amazing quotes.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to the Under Armour social media department.
Oh yeah.
Media team. Chef's kiss, man. Chef's kiss, because they jumped on this and was just like, we got you covered. And posted a picture of their non-white, or actually white, non-see-through pants. If Under Armour can do it, you would think, hey, just a note, maybe somebody else can do it. Just saying.
No. So, scandalous or sexy?
Why not both?
Depends on what angle you're looking at it from.
Yeah.
I'd say more scandalous than sexy, but it's not so black and white there. That's why we're asking the question. here's something that I think is maybe a little bit more straightforwardly scandalous, and that is the Oakland A's in general. But we do want to give an update because we got to interview Brian from the last dive bar last week. And that was honestly like one of my favorite interviews that I've done over the past couple of years since I started doing this. And they had an amazing event yesterday, over 10,000 people at Fans Fest in Oakland. But the Oakland A's supposedly have blocked all replies on social media. So you cannot interact with them on
Not
social
just
media.
on Twitter?
No, on all social media now.
Oh, that is new. Love that.
And
Okay.
the only thing that they've said in regard to that is a spokesperson for the A's said this decision is in response to a lack of civil discourse in some comments. So, Suzy, maybe you should also block replies on your social media since there is certainly a lack of civil discourse in those comments as well.
Yeah, probably.
But okay, I want to ask you what you think about this because maybe you heard about it. Drake's Brewery, they actually serve beer at the Oakland Coliseum. So they definitely have a contract with the Oakland A's. They were one of the first sponsors of this fans-led Fans Fest, but they pulled out of the event last minute. So one of their head representatives emailed the organizers of Fans Fest and were just like, hey, so sorry, due to unforeseen circumstances, we can't be a part of this. They tried calling, emailing, like, what's up? Can you give us any more information on this? Because like we're super bummed. And this is obviously like really tough for us to kind of navigate so last minute, and they would not get back in contact with them. So do you think the Oakland A's had anything to do with this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They had to, right?
Had to have. And I feel badly because I know.
But yeah, I do think that unfortunately, the thing that kind of solidified it for me was that they have a contract with the Coliseum. They serve beer there. So the good news is that Fans Fest organizers, Last Dive Bar, and the Oakland 68s were able to get even more beer sponsors that like stepped in and stepped up and were like, hey, this sucks. How can I help? And one of the owners of the other breweries that stepped in was like, hey, I'll say whatever. Like, you can print whatever I have to say. I do think that the A's had something to do with it, and I don't plan to ever serve beer there. So put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because again, we don't quote unquote know the personalities professionally or personally, but we've had conversations with Jessica Kleinschmidt, with Dallas Braden, and you can just tell that because they are directly employed by the Oakland Athletics organization, that they have to be very careful with the words that they say out loud if they still want a job, which obviously we're not going to fault anybody for having a job. So you know that the athletics organization was like, I'm sorry, our official beer sponsor is sponsoring beer at Fans Fest. Absolutely not. If you still want the contract, you'll pull out.
Yeah, it's really hard to assume that's not what happened. And of course, they have denied any collusion, but they are in talks again with the Coliseum to potentially play there in 2025. Did you see? I'm not sure how much of the coverage from yesterday, which was amazing, by the way. You have to, anybody listening, you have to check out Foul Territory's coverage of Fans Fest yesterday. The thing, like, I knew it was going to be cool. I was really excited just to see everything that was going on, but they had a number of guests from Trevor May to Coco Crisp to the mayor of fucking Oakland. It was just so freaking cool. And they did not shy away from any aspect of why this is so important and the effect that it has on the community of Oakland, the sport as a whole. And I was just really impressed by that. And I think that's really important to hear those conversations. But yeah, they freaking interviewed the mayor of Oakland who was like, I had one meeting ever with John Fisher. And no, this city, we're ready for it. We're fully capable of it. I'm sure I can get multiple people to bid to buy the A's. We just got to get this joker to give it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I unfortunately had a crazy day yesterday and was not able to figure out how to watch all the things that I needed to watch when I needed to watch them. And so I was excited to talk to you today about, because I know that you were
I don't have
paying
life.
attention. What I was trying to say nicely. Thanks for inferring that and reading between the
Fortunately,
lines. I do
yesterday,
appreciate that. Yeah.
I was able to have my life focused on this.
But I am planning on going back and like looking at the coverage and seeing, because I read a bunch of the things about Fans Fest and how cool it was and the silent auction items, and I was just drooling over all of the freaking customized bobbleheads and the one-of-one cards. Just, I'm not cool enough to get one of these bobbleheads or cards, but I fucking want one.
Hell yeah. And that fan base, that community is creating stuff like that. There was a hot dog vendor who was dressed as the Rally Possum, which was amazing.
Oh my God. I love that so much.
So actually, this is a little bit, the Oakland A's in general, like the organization and obviously John Fisher, all scandal. Fans Fest and the Oakland A's fan base, super sexy. Would you agree?
Super, super sexy. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to get Brian from the last dive bar back on here so that we can get like a full recap after he sleeps a little bit. But I feel bad. Obviously, I have all of the empathy in the world for the A's fan base. But the fact that regular people have come together to spearhead and put this thing on and do all of the things without any of the organization's help is just two big thumbs up. All the stars, just 43,000 out of 10. Shout out A's fans. Shout out A's fans. This is a pro A's fans podcast.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's been eye-opening to just be up to date with it and be tuned into it, because when you hear about everything that they've gone through and just the history of the organization, you look at it from a different perspective as a baseball fan and say, this could happen to any organization if it falls into the wrong hands. And that's really scary.
Yeah.
So I think that's something where, as baseball fans, we have to rally around them. And one of the things I look forward to asking Brian about is like how other fan bases can support them, because obviously they're doing everything they can. And yeah, it's really incredible to see what they are able to do. If you want to get a new stadium built in Oakland, leave it up to that group of people, because I bet you they could fucking do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Apparently, again, before I started watching baseball, before I was even knew what was going on, when Jim Crane apparently bought the Astros, the owner before Jim Crane was not obviously as bad as John Fisher, but like this, and didn't give a fuck about the team, like didn't want to do anything. Obviously changed the colors, all of that fun stuff, but was not, from what I gather from fans telling me about the owner, was absolutely terrible. And they were just so happy when he sold it to Jim Crane. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Hooray, Jim Crane. And so then when I hear people now talking about Jim Crane and what a cheap ass he is, I'm sorry. Do you realize what's happening right now? Stop it. Stop it right now. Okay. Nothing but nice words about Jim Crane.
That's exactly how I feel with the Cardinals fan base too. Yeah, I get it. I know they're making hand over fist. That's how they became billionaires to begin with. That's what happens, but it could be worse.
Could be worse. So
I want to get your perspective on this too, Suzy, because we haven't talked about this yet, but I'm sure you saw that Rafael Devers called out the Red Sox organization, which we have talked a lot about in the previous weeks, of what the hell are they doing? Full throttle or full noddle? I don't know. But Rafael Devers said, quote, "Everybody knows what we need. You know what we need, and they know what we need. It's just some things I can't say out loud. We all know what we need. You know what we need. I don't have to say it publicly." So we know.
And
who knows? He said it.
To put it in perspective, Rafi Devers, you never really get sound bites from Rafi Devers.
No.
Rafi Devers is a superstar because of his bat, not really his glove, but his bat. He is one of those guys that is in the lineup and you know him, but you don't know his personality. You've never really heard him speak. And for him to actually come out and say this, you know that there was a breaking point. You absolutely know there was a breaking point, because there's no way that silent, still Rafi Devers would come out and really call anybody out. And I heard some discourse about this on, should he have come out and said it? Should he just have toed the line? And quite honestly, I really feel like Rafi Devers, again, this is the straw that broke their camel's back. I feel like Rafi Devers is one of those guys that wants to win, wants people to be put around him to give the Red Sox a chance to win. And I've heard this line way too fucking often, but it's the goddamn Red Sox, people. Never expect the Red Sox to come in last in the division for the last, 3 years now? 2 years?
2 years for sure. Yeah, they haven't been competitive really since they won in 2018.
Yeah, and apparently the Boston Red Sox owner doesn't give a fuck about the Red Sox and just gives all of the fucks about his soccer team, and now is trying to do something with the PGA. And the Red Sox fans are like, "Hi, do you remember us over here with the things? Can you do anything?" And Craig Breslow is crab walking back and trying to politically correctly say the things and trying to make the moves that he's allowed to make.
Yeah.
And I just all of the things.
Yeah, I think to the other side of that's exactly what I wanted to talk about with this, is that, I don't know, at first I had the perspective of, what if you at your job were just sitting in the break room having a conversation with a coworker and you were talking shit about your company? Like that, you probably wouldn't do that. I don't care who you are in the company. You probably wouldn't do that, because go out for drinks afterwards, do that. But that is the equivalent to speaking to the media like this. Like, you're not talking shit about your company directly to your boss, but you're talking about it in a way that you know it's going to get back to them, and you clearly don't give a shit about that. So at first I was, ooh, bad luck. And I do think Rafi Devers is very overpaid. But again, that's the Red Sox problem, not his. So at first I didn't think it was the sexiest thing per se, maybe a little more scandalous. But you make a great point in that, what does he do at this point? And he has the guaranteed money. It's not, he's not gonna kick the bucket here anytime soon on that contract. And it does seem like it's gotten to the point where even the players within the organization are like, okay, we're not on the same page here. Communication is lacking.
Yeah.
What do you want me to say? I can't defend
Yep.
you. Give me something if you want me to have something different to say to the media.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't wait until people are like, "But they signed Lucas Giolito with an opt-out after the first year.
Traded for
So he does
Tyler
great."
O'Neill. Listen, I do think
You know?
Tyler O'Neill is going to be a badass for the Red Sox, but it doesn't matter if they don't have any motherfucking starting pitching.
Yeah.
So maybe a sexy
So
scandal here.
it is. It is a sexy scandal, yes. Apparently, another sexy scandal that happened overnight, the standoff between Cody Bellinger and Scott Boras and all of the Major League teams have subsided. Cody Bellinger, in the middle of the night, Jeff Passan drops that Cody Bellinger finally signs, with, drumroll please, the motherfucking Cubs for 3 years, $80 million. $80 million, $30 million in the first 2 years, and $20 million in the third year. And he gets player opt out after each year.
That sounds like a nice cozy pillow deal to me.
Yeah. So, Cody Bellinger, if you're upset about this, I don't know. Maybe you should take a look in the mirror and say, oh, so just the one rebound year is not good enough, is not going to show all of the peoples that I'm not going to suck again? Because the 2 prior years before that, really, a lot of the years before that, what you been doing, man?
I doubt that Cody is that upset about it. If he's upset about it, he's upset at Boris, who convinced him that he could somehow get a long-term $200 million deal, because that is delusional. And I am so glad that did not happen, not for Bellinger, but because Boris, they have to, the owners, I think, have collectively, I like to think maybe they're not even saying it, but they're looking at each other at owners meetings. Scott Boris is sitting across the table. There's another owner over here, and they just keep looking at each other like,
Right.
you too? He feeds you this bullshit too? Wait a second.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's just happened long enough. Again, we are all for all the players getting all the money. Obviously, the teams are making hand over fist over so many of these players that want that money to get back to them. But a lot of that money is getting back to Scott Boras, and he doesn't need any more. And it really just blows things out of proportion, and it creates more disparity between the teams than anything. And that's not really fun for fans. But yeah. Oh, shocker. Cody Bellinger, going to be a Cub again.
Back to the Cubs. Yeah. And so we'll see if Cody can continue the progress that he made from the season before last season to this season. And hopefully he can continue that. And maybe after next season with another quote unquote standout season, which should just be your baseline, Cody Bellinger.
At this point, that's the thing is I think it's interesting to point out that the Cubs don't get better than they were last year from this deal, because what are the chances that he had an amazing season last year? If he had a season like that again, he's earning his $30 million. That's really at most. So they're not better than they were last year, but I do think he's a great fit for that team. I had no doubt that this would ultimately happen, but it will be really interesting to clip our conversation right now this time next year.
Exactly. Yeah.
See what's happening with it.
Exactly. And a lot of the teammates at Cubs Fest were stumping for him, essentially saying, sign Cody Bellinger. That needs to be that first thing. So obviously a great, I say clubhouse guy, I assume is a great clubhouse guy since everyone wants him back. Yeah. So we shall see how the Cubs season goes. Hopefully for your sake, Kelsey, they don't. For all of the Cubs fans listening, hopefully they do really well. Okay. I just want everybody to score all the runs and everybody have fun. All right. Except for the Dodgers and the Yankees. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody score the runs, all the time. Okay.
I won't root against individual players for the most part. So Cody Bellinger, go for it.
Hopefully you do the things. Okay. But another team that is making more moves, making all of the moves. I can't wait until we do the breakdown of all of the teams, because I can't wait to talk about this team. The Royals, the Kansas City Royals, have signed another person. That's right. They signed catcher Austin Nola. Now, I understand that there are not prize horns going off in your head, but however, yeah, Nola was a non-roster invitee, an NRI, if you see that in print, to spring training with the Brewers, but signed a 1 year, and my screen just went out, so I no longer know what he signed for.
1 year, $975,000 deal with the Royals. He will make $175K if he plays in the minors. He does have one option left. But I think that's interesting because we don't talk about these types of contracts a ton. It is important that there's that delineation that he'll make $175K in the minors, because that would not be the case at all. It's a much larger difference. Typically, I think the minimum for AAA is like $34,000. So 175 sounds much better. But I didn't know this. Did you know that he dealt with post-concussion symptoms for most of last year?
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I did not know. But he slashed 146, 260, 192 in just 52 games with the Padres. But he has always maintained a good reputation behind the plate. And the Royals have a very young backup, Freddie Fermin, for Salvi Perez. Do you think the Royals are going to carry 3 catchers, or do they swap Fermin and Nola out as needed, just kind of
Honestly,
extra depth.
honestly, they may carry 3 catchers and have Salvi primarily DH because Salvi's getting up there in
But
years. His knees probably don't feel great. So they'll probably
yeah, and he could play
slide
too.
yeah. They probably slide him to DH and neither Freddie Fermin nor Austin Nola's bat is gonna get you
Right.
much. That may be where we see things end up for them, but again, we shall see. We'll let you know in a couple of weeks when we do the the wrap up of the spring training moves and what you guys can see upcoming for the rosters for all of the teams when we record that. But let's talk about the Tigers though. Kels, tell me who is probably going to play third base for the Tigers.
Yeah, Gio Urshela signed a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. It does include an interesting performance bonus structure where he can earn up to 500K based on plate appearances. So I think he gets like 100K more if he hits 500. He gets like another 100K if he hits 530 and so on. So he can earn up to 500K more. He had his best season in 2022 with the Twins, where he played 144 games, slashing 285, 338, 429. He had 13 home runs and 64 RBIs that season. And then last season, didn't see a ton of him because he got hurt in June, which ended his season. So in just 62 games, he hit 299, 329, 374 with 2 home runs and 24 RBIs. Here's where his real value lies. He is a 290 lifetime hitter versus left-handed pitching, and he hit 373 against lefties last season. Yeah, do you assume he's going to play? I assume he's going to play third base for
Yeah.
the Tigers.
Yes, I assume so. Again, I'm not super overly familiar with the Tigers' system, but I know that they're bringing back Riley Green, their center fielder. They've got some really good starting options. So Gio Urshela, I'm excited to watch over there because I know that he had some health issues last season and he was
Yeah.
doing well for the Angels last season before he got hurt. So we shall see. We shall see. I'm excited. Another person that we are excited that finally signed. I'm sad that we were wrong on the team. However, shortstop Tim
This is the
Anderson
second
signs with
best
the Marlins.
team, to be
Yeah.
fair. This is the second best team. If he couldn't go with the Angels, I'm cool that he went with the Marlins.
Shortstop Tim Anderson gets 1 year, $5 million with the Marlins. And you, Kelsey, had said that Skip and who did you say was the bench coach?
John Jay is, I think
Okay.
he's actually their first base coach. John Mabry,
Okay.
also another great clubhouse guy, I believe is still their bench coach. So yeah, they just have a great culture amongst their coaching staff and the players over there on the Marlins. Like I very much think Kim Ng was probably a part of that. I hope that they can separate themselves. I'm not saying that whoever they have coming in from the Tigers organization, I'm sure he's fine, but I just mean separate themselves from the ownership who is not super supportive of what seems like a good culture. But yeah, I think the same way that like Ron Washington, we were looking for that culture fit for Tim Anderson to just come in and have a turnaround year, that the Marlins coaching staff and the players seem to have that rapport that could give him that opportunity for sure. Definitely the opposite of the White Sox last season.
Yeah. If you recognize Tim Anderson's name and not for his hitting capabilities, maybe you will recognize his name from taking a TKO from third baseman Jose Ramirez of the Guardians when they got into an actual brawl on the field where Jose Ramirez just knocked him the fuck out.
And Jose Ramirez only threw punches because Tim Anderson started it. That was the really bad look from our guy Tim here. But yeah, he was a 2-time All-Star in his 8 seasons with the White Sox previously. And he actually won. I had forgotten about this. I knew that he was always a strong hitter, but he won the AL batting title with a 335 average in 2019. Last season, he only hit 245.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
massive.
He has had some off-field issues, namely having a child with another woman that is not his wife. Obviously, not the first athlete to do this. I understand. I get it. But apparently it affected him mentally, and we all know how mentally tough these guys have to be playing this game of baseball. So apparently he also had a knee injury in 2022 that was still affecting him last season. So hopefully all of the off-field issues are wrapped up and taken care of, and he can literally go to Miami, do the whole change of scenery, and get there and do the things that we all have seen Tim Anderson can do. My favorite Tim Anderson moment is that Field of Dreams game where he walk off against the Yankees.
Yeah.
Love it. It was the best. I freaking loved it.
It's interesting because there are other guys who have had similar narratives to Tim Anderson's last season narrative, as you mentioned, that we wouldn't necessarily be like rooting for as much, but he does everything else around him off the field in previous years and the kind of teammate that he is. And even I think you spoke in an earlier episode this year about Mark DeRosa's relationship with
Mhm.
him from the World Baseball Classic is totally opposite of what we saw from him this season, which is why we're like, okay, like this is an example. Actually, Trevor Bauer Truthers, hear me now. This is an example of a guy you want to see, quote unquote, rehabilitated or given a second chance. Totally
Absolutely.
different. But this is a guy that, yeah, I'm still rooting for. And from what we do know, and it seems like from the facts, he still has a lot of potential. And yeah, maybe he made some bad choices. Not great. Super sorry for all of those that affected. But hopefully it's really hard to look at the situation that all of those White Sox players were in last year and hold certain things against them, certainly their play on the field.
Mhm.
So with that alone, I just hope that he's in a better situation to be set up for success this year.
Yep, for sure. So fingers crossed. Another guy that has set himself up in a very good situation is right-handed pitcher Mitch Keller signs an extension with the Pirates. Hooray, Mitch Keller. Yay. We love that for him. Mitch Keller signs a 5-year, $77 million, largest ever for a Pirates pitcher. It's more than they've ever paid a single player for a season. Excuse me, in a single season. He was signed in the second round of the 2014 draft. He was 27 years old. He was an all-star last year. And he set the club record for most strikeouts by a right-handed pitcher in 2023 with 210. Mitch Keller. That's impressive, Mitch Keller. Look good on you. From his ERA between 2021 through 2023 with more than 100 innings pitched. From 2021, it was 617, 391, 421. That's a little up and down. It's a little up and down. And I remember in 2021, he went from literally the worst pitcher,
Yeah.
literally the worst pitcher when he came back in 2022 to a very good, middling average pitcher. But
Mhm.
the turnaround was spectacular. I remember that season, everybody talking about Mitch Keller being like, oh my gosh, look at how hard he worked and blah, blah, blah. And did you see that video of him hearing the news that he was going to start the game?
Oh, no, but I did
Pitch
hear, yeah, he's been
opening
named
day?
the opening day starter
Yes.
for the Pirates, right?
Yes,
No,
it's
I didn't
so
see it.
cute.
Aw.
It's very cute. If I remember after I edit this ridiculous episode where I just keep going in and out of, I will try and remember to put that link into the show notes because it's adorable. And it's one of those isn't baseball the best fucking sport ever
Yeah.
moments where you get to see the triumphs of these individual players and it just chef's kiss. Makes me just so happy.
The only thing that I thought there was maybe a little scandals, maybe not the right word, but made me raise an eyebrow is the announcement of this extension came out within 24 hours, I think, of that article from The Athletic calling out the Pirates just being happy to be mediocre and not concerned with winning. Do you think owner Bob Nutton, do you think it had anything to do with this?
I don't even know. I don't even know what the fuck Bob Nutting is doing. Just, I don't know. I hear the whispers of the various people within the organization, maybe, but probably not. I feel like it's got to have been in the works.
Yeah, that's what I
You
was
know,
thinking too. I'm like, okay, I think the timing was good,
yeah,
but also this isn't we just told you about Mitch Keller. He's not Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery.
yeah.
So
No.
I
I
think it
think,
seems like a piratey thing to do, but it's great for him and it's great for the fans.
yeah, I don't,
She's leaving me again. The point that I believe Susie is trying to make is that, yeah, deals don't come together quite that quickly. So PR wise, the timing of announcing it, maybe they were like, oh, you know what? On the heels of this article, great timing. Let's make sure we get the Mitch Keller news out. But was it like cause and effect? Probably not.
yeah. I'm more interested in the fact that they fired one of their minor league
Oh, yeah.
pitching, or excuse me, hitting coaches
Mhm.
because apparently he was helping Brian Hayes be a
I don't know.
better hitter.
That was weird. Yeah.
What? And all of that seems very fishy. So if I can find the articles that I was reading about that, I will link those in the show notes as well. But apparently, Brian Hayes, I don't know. Apparently, the hitting coaches on the actual Pirates organization in the major leagues either wasn't explaining something well or Brian Hayes wasn't understanding something that they were trying to say. I don't know. But apparently, one of the minor league, Nunley, I think was the last name of the hitting coach. Apparently, they worked really well together when Brian Hayes was coming up. And after it came out that Nunley was helping Brian Hayes, apparently that it got out and then he was fired. Or they
Yeah, that's
decided
why.
to part ways or something like that. But
Yeah.
apparently this decision had something to do with that. And the fact that Brian Hayes and Nunley said that they kept the relationship, quote unquote, secret from the major
Yeah.
league organization just leads me to be, as the kids like to say, it's very sus.
It's very sus. I agree.
Right?
You know what I wanted to tell you is that we were talking about Alec Thomas's dad working for the White Sox
Mhm,
organization,
mhm.
and I forget why I was I'm doing my White Sox feature on Peace Love and Baseball this week, and so I looked him up, and he was on the training staff for the Chicago White Sox for 28 years, and he was fired like a year or two ago. And the year prior to that, there's no clear reason why. He like owns his own company now and is on to bigger and better things, obviously. But there was another coach that had also worked there for a really long time that was fired, I think the year before he was, and not Alec Thomas's dad, but this other coach who worked alongside him for almost 30 years as well, has filed a lawsuit against the White Sox because this guy specifically, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he is contesting his firing because I think he was in an accident and he could not do his job to the same extent that he could before, but there were things in his contract that should have protected him from that while he was working through that. So that also seems I don't how are there these organizations that I guess it happens in all companies where you hear about
Right.
people getting let go where they've been there forever, but especially in these organizations where you would think the coaching staff specifically it's such a people relationship. I don't know. I read that and I was like, man, the White Sox, what
Yeah,
is going on the last few years here with that organization's culture?
yeah.
But that
I
seems like that
I
same
was yeah.
type of sus
Mhm.
bullshit that we don't like to hear about.
Yeah, I was like, as a organization, I could understand if that got whatever, I don't know, the Pirates hitting coaches, who they are, but for some reason, if the fact that one of your players, quote unquote, "went behind your back"
Yeah.
to seek out somebody else in the organization that maybe works better with them, don't you think that, I don't know, after you got your feelings hurt, wouldn't you take a step back and be like, "Okay, what can I do in order to maybe make myself better or see where the disconnect was?" Because I understand that some personalities are just never going to mesh. I get it. I understand. But then wouldn't you say, all right, let's try and find someone that does work better for your personality or whatever and get you better? Because obviously the results say, guess what? Cabrian Hayes hit better after working with Nunley. So
Susie, how dare you assume that people would be introspective, especially
no,
middle-aged men, really?
that's just funny. That's just funny. I know. I should expect literally the worst from people and then not be surprised when
That's a
things
great point, and it's just something that happens in, again, like, not just sports, not just baseball, like, it's in all kind of working relationships where, unfortunately, yeah, if the right people are not making the decisions or it's not always necessarily fair or the way it should have gone, and we certainly don't always have all the information.
yeah. Again, I don't know, Pirates fans, if you are here and you have more insight, please drop them in the comments. We definitely appreciate that. One final thing before we wrap things up is our all female fantasy baseball league. If you are a female and you have never played fantasy baseball before, or if you have and you say, hey, you know what, I would like to play again, let me know. I have an all female fantasy baseball league. If you've never played and you are intimidated, by all means, we want everybody
Casuals only.
yes. We want everybody to come and play. And just know that this is the Wild West over here in this league. The league is named RBI'd for her pleasure. That's the type of league this is. So if you don't appreciate the inappropriate adult humor, again, probably not your
You probably
jam.
didn't get
That's
to this
okay.
part, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
If, again, you are a female and want to play fantasy baseball this season, please slide into my DMs. Let me know because that draft is going to happen probably here very quickly. We don't play for money. We don't play for anything. There are no rules. There is no
Totally.
trophy, just bragging rights and all of the fun and knowledge because you will learn about all of the players on all of the teams because that is how I learned about all the players except for fucking Andrelton Simmons. With that, we will wrap up. Please give us all of the 5-star ratings, all of the nice words, all of the Apple reviews, Spotify reviews. If you have not subscribed on YouTube, please make sure and go and do that. Kelsey, where can the people find you?
You can find me on the Twitter, just being a casual, at KBirdTweets. That's KBURD tweets, right here on your screen. My link tree is there where you can find my solo podcast that comes out weekly on Tuesdays, along with obviously some bourbon and baseball and my other podcast, Babes, and mostly just some really fun social interaction. If you're not on the Twitter, Peace, Love, and Baseball is on Facebook and on Instagram at peace.love.baseball. So I'll see you over there.
Yep. So with that, we will wrap up and say, yay, baseball. And now we're going to hit end record. Bye-bye.